All right, started part one of our homework video. Mark, okay. All right. Well, hey guys. So I realized that actually before we get into the basics of cornering, one thing we really need to work on is getting to know the track. There's no way in hell you're gonna know the track well enough in a car the first time you go around in any sim. You know, you're just not. Even if, and honestly, I would say this too, as someone who played Laguna Seca, oh, I don't know, a few hundred hours was my favorite track in Gran Turismo 3, 4, and 5, whatever. It still was completely different when I went from a controller to a wheel. So, learning what I need to do and all that, the only thing that I knew was I knew what was coming next. So I had a good idea of how much brake pressure I need, but honestly, it didn't mean nothing. I still needed to actually learn the brake, I'm sorry, the muscle memory to be able to recall it every single lap. So, how do we get to that point where we're able to our legs know exactly without telling our brain how much pressure to apply every time we get to a certain turn? Well, there's no magic answer to that. It's only by it's only by seat time. So, but what we can do is when we get a new car, a new sim, a new track, or all three, um, we do exploratory laps, and that doesn't mean we drive around at half speed. We drive around even slower than that. So honestly, if you're already familiar with this, from you're coming from another sim, then yeah, you're good to skip this video. But if you're not, you're new to sim racing whatsoever, this is very very important. This is something that you pretty much should be doing every time you're learning a track, especially with the new car. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and hop right into it. There's not a whole lot to what we're going to do. It's just a method to the madness so that you know what to do when it's time to do. All right. So, yep, let's get right into it. All right. So, yep, we're back in the cut car. Because at this point, honestly, if you're new to sim racing, you don't need to be driving anything faster than this. Just fast enough. See, my previews are on. Let me turn these off in OBS. I need them. All right. All right. So getting to know our track. What we see right now, we have this long straight. We have our brake meters here, starting at 200, 150, 100 to 50. Okay, so that means that the whole point of us guys looking for things on the track so that we can find brake markers to help us out. Because when you're driving around a track at a few hundred miles an hour or just 100 miles an hour, you need to know where to brake at every single time. Shouldn't have to guess it. That's one of the first things you're going to learn about sim racing coming from maybe another genre is you have brake markers and you hit them every time. This isn't, a game where you have an extra boost and you can go a little bit faster this time and it doesn't matter about the turn. You can go. No, like a real race driver, you're going to find your marker. In this case, it's going to be on our left hand side. And we're going to start at the 150 meter mark here. We're going to brake right at it. So that means when we get to it, as we pass it, we want to go ahead and get on the brake. So that's a pretty easy one to spot out for us. And we're going to definitely be on as we're braking. Going to be on the left hand side. Now here's something for you also should look at too. If we're going to brake around that time, where's a good time that I should be done with my braking? Because here's the anatomy to a corner, guys. You're not gonna brake all the way through and then get on the gas somewhere way over there. You're gonna stop braking and get off the brake before you turn in. So yeah, we'll be to the far outside, at this point. But yeah, you're going to be off it. So that's something else to look at too. You want to probably find a marker which you get used to braking to. Okay, I know I'm going to be off the brake at this time and start turning in. Uh, so always going to use the inside part of the curve, but we'll talk about that in the next part of the cornering video. Let's get down to the next turn. So you see here we have Curva by Sono. Curva by Sono. Set. Um, and this is a very fast corner. So, well, really not a lot of us for much to worry about as far as this is concerned. And now we want to slow down before we get to the point that we want to look and see where we should be braking at. For the Mazda, let's say we're going to start braking at the 100-meter mark. By the way, once you get more comfortable, you can definitely push these markers back. If you find yourself locking up or oversteering, or understeering, I'm sorry. In other words, you're not able to make the corner, you're not able to get turned in because you're coming in too fast, move the brake meter back until you get comfortable enough to move it forward. I say it again and again. That's really the key to getting fast is knowing when to move up and back brake. All right, so at this point, we see this turn. We go to stop at the 100-meter mark. We have a rumble strip here, so that's a good idea. We probably want to put our car there. It's probably a good idea. If it's painted, probably where your car should be. Probably a good idea to maybe take this one too. And we have another corner here, so we're going to go ahead and probably take that too. That's probably a good flow. You see, we also have a rumble strip on the outside, so that's probably a good place for our car to end up. Okay, all right, so we're kind of getting to know this track here. It's a pretty fast corner. It's two corners pretty much in one. Now, we get to another turn. We're going to slow down before this. Go ahead and get a second. Let me get first. You see, we're going to reverse a little bit here. Honestly, in most cars, that orange marker up here to our top right up here, that will be our brake marker. I'm going to say we're going to brake a little bit earlier. We're going to brake probably about, let's see, this is a good exercise for this. So let's see if we can, oh, I'm killing the car. Let's see if we can find a good marker for us. That tree's a little too, tree on the left-hand side, that's a little too close. So we won't use the tree. That's too close. Let's see. We don't want to use anything that has light because it's gonna change. Um, let's say if we're gonna use that orange and think that might be a little too quick for us, we could start at the second pole before the orange, right? So we look here to our top right hand right here. You can't see where I'm pointing. But basically, let's just look at the right hand side there. If you count the one where the orange one is, not the one behind it, but the one that's on it, you see there's one there and then there's one more. We could say we could start there, and right about here is where we would break. Where basically we start to lose the orange marker anyway. So pretty close to the orange marker, but not as close. We're going to start braking there, and then we're going to turn in. Now we see that this is painted on the inside here, so it's a good sign that my car probably needs to be there as I turn. And if I can't, then I'm probably going too fast. Excuse me. All right. So here's another one. Let's see. So we have, another kind of quick turn here. This turn leads to a straight, so it's very important we carry speed here. We want to have minimum braking. When you get to a straight, either if it's a heavy braking zone, then you definitely want to get on the brake early, go in slow, come out fast, right? This is a pretty medium speed corner, I would say. It's not a low speed corner, and it's definitely not a heavy braking zone. You just want to brake enough to get the car turned around and hit that apex there. Another key reminder, guys, as we're looking at our brake markers, what we want to do while we're driving at speed is glance and look for them, then get used to hitting them, through muscle and timing, because we want to keep our eyes up and looking up at the next apex. You literally see where you're driving. When you drive your car, driving a car fast, it's the same thing. Since we have to make these quick turns, we want our eyes locked on those apexes. And then as soon as we get ready to hit them, we want to be our eyes looking up for the next one. All right, so we're gonna say this isn't a very fast car. In a faster car, I would say this brake marker will probably be a little bit further back, a Formula car maybe. But we're gonna try to brake at the 50-meter mark here, and see if we can carry a lot of speed here. Start to turn in here. We can start turning kind of late because this is kind of a long corner. Not long, long, but you know, apex is right about here. Get on the gas here. Now we see this part's painted out here, so it's a good sign. We're probably gonna have to run our car out wide that way. All right, so far so good. He's spotted a good place to find where we're gonna break the car at, and some of them are painted and have numbers on them. Some of them don't at this point. All right, so I like to start in faster cars right there at that service road. Service roads are always good places. Go back so you can take a look at that. You guys just want to hear me talking. All right. So I like to start around that orange marker, right where that my brain isn't working today. Where the safety workers at, where the track workers working. I like to break it him honestly. Um, and here's the thing: if we break it him at this point, we could all, and if we feel like we're coming in way too slow and not carrying the speed, we can immediately move it up to here. You know, with the idea that if this when this gets too good, or we feel like I feel like in this car it's probably not a good idea, but we never know. Then we could probably go halfway and try to be at 75 if we can. But I feel like at 75 meters is probably too little for this car. So we'll start at where the safety work is at the first orange marker, with the idea that we can always bump it up to the second orange marker. All right. So now let's look at this. We have a chicane here. Now, chicanes are always interesting because honestly, your entry to them really matters. If you don't get this right here, then the rest of it's going to be slow. Um, so you definitely want to look at your angles when you're also getting used to the track. Figure out like, okay, look how much room I have here. Where should I be? Should I be over here? Or should I be in there? Now, honestly, there is a key to that chicane. Since this is a chicane, I'm not going to reverse. But there's a way that you guys need to hit it in such a way that you're going to start wide and then bring the car back to the inside. Remember I said if it's painted, you probably want to be on it. As you can see, there's a matching painting part right across from it. That's also for your car exit. Very important exit for this long straight here. Alright, so at this point, pretty much almost done with the track. So let's look at our last corner. The penultimate corner. That monster. Alright, so we're going to slow down here. Okay, so we're going to reverse again because once again, we're at that. Now, if you've driven a car in other games, you know, you can kind of be like, okay, well, in Formula One, I brake at the 100-meter mark. I brake at the 50-meter mark. Well, depending on how fast your car is and how little downforce you have, you know that that's going to be adjusted. For the Mazda, I like to kind of be in between. I like to be at 75. I think that's good enough. The brake. This is kind of a heavy braking zone because it's coming off of a long straight, but you're gonna definitely get the car to the inside here, and you should be as you go around this curve on this inside rumble strip just enough. Now, where do you pick up the gas? Usually, it's the midway point. I like to pick it up, so probably right around there. Depending on the car, but really most folks would tell you right here is where you want to be on the throttle. You want to wait to get on the throttle till about here. You almost want to be here when you're on the throttle as well. So rule of thumb, brake until you pretty much or be off the throttle until you get to this inside orange marker right here in this safety worker, and then you want to get back on the throttle. Maybe not full at that point because the car is going to be off balance a little bit as you take this corner kind of fast, but you want to get yourself up to full throttle pretty quickly. Alright, so thing about Monza, it's a pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of markers. You know, maybe I could do a Watkins Glen for another one like this, and we could probably maybe learn a little bit more, or certain of Americas. You know, where there's a little bit more, or even VIR, where I feel like there's a lot of natural landmarks. Where there's going to be take some time to get used to. You know, as you learn tracks, guys. Don't be afraid to use visual or well, use visual obviously things to mark your where you're breaking at, but also you know don't be scared to use a tree or you know a house or something else. I mean, there's definitely going to be things that you're going to see that this is going to be the time for me to break it, and when I'm getting even with this, or I'm a little bit before it, or I'm a little bit after it. But it takes driving the track a few times to pick out those things where they're at and where they're placed so that you could get used to getting your eyes to be looking for it when you're coming into the braking zone. All right, so that's cornering part one, getting to know the track. Um, Stay tuned for part two, where we're actually going to talk about the anatomy of how to attack the corner. So we already got to the point where we're going to be braking, or we know where we're going to brake at. We're going to talk about how the physical input needed to get to the corner cleanly. Hit the apex every time. Carry our speed.